What's up, guys? Welcome to Son of a Ditka podcast. I'm here with Taylor,
So guys,
and we're here just to quickly break down the three picks that the Chicago Bears made last night. I think it's fair to say that I feel better after sleeping on it, but at the time, it just was like underwhelming. Underwhelming. Do you have any overall thoughts?
so in the previous podcast, I explained that you know walking away at wide receiver at 39 was going to make Bears fans comfortable, and that wasn't the case. We saw the Vikings once again give up another trade back to another divisional rivalry, and they go ahead and grab my draft crush, Christian Watson, stolen right out from underneath my hands. Now, to take in, looking at the way Ryan Poles was drafting, if Christian Watson was on the board at 39, I'm starting to realize I don't think Christian Watson would have been a Bear regardless if he was at 39 or not, let alone 48. I think Poles' full intention was to patch up positions on defense.
Yeah, and I think just to reiterate the whole Vikings process of trading with the Lions in the first round to trade up to like 20 picks, and then they got both the Packers mid second round picks to trade up to take Christian Watkins or Watson. Um, Fuck him anyway. Uh, but Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, Vikings new GM, is a pure analytics guy. He don't care what name is on the other side of the phone. He's just going to make the picks if they make sense to him analytically. If he feels like the return for the trade is good enough, he'll make a trade with anyone, and that's just his background. Um, which is weird because I mean you just let two division opponents get potentially two top receivers. Um,
Yeah, and I think as a GM, and especially like I think you can look at this from the outside in as even just a casual watcher and understanding where the Packers were when they drafted two defensive players in the first round, and now we are allowing the Packers to somehow get this scapegoat with being able to get a wide receiver at this caliber of talent. You know, Christian Watson, coming off the board right here, late set or early second round, I think is a steal for any team, let alone the Packers, who desperately needed the weapons, and the Vikings just casually let this one run. It's like you got to take it in as a GM and play that chess game that anybody else that you would have traded that pick to would have been just fine, be outside of division rivalries, and not even to trade with the Bears. You trade with somebody outside of that division rivalry because now you have to play against that pick, Christian Watson, twice every single year, and that kid has superstar potential, especially playing with a caliber player like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is going to elevate a rookie right away just because he's going to make it super easy for them. He's just going to tell them to get open. They don't have to worry about all these checks and calls and audibles and look at me's and all of those because he's just going to say, do your best to get open, do your best to give me a window. And Aaron Rodgers, being one of the most accurate quarterbacks to ever play, he's just going to put the ball right on him. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, to reiterate your point of if Watson was even there at 39. Um, yeah, I don't think the Bears would have drafted him either, just because if you listen to Poles' press conference after the draft last night, um, the most NFL teams they do their own mock drafts and they do their own situational things, and they said Kyler Gordon was there a few times, um, but not so they were like this it's not going to happen. And then one of the times he actually said that, just told his scouts, just ignore it, act like he's not there because he will not be there when it comes to the real draft. So just the way he talks about Kyler Gordon, in the way that he didn't think there was any possibility he would be there, makes me think that he had him rated a lot higher than even Christian Watson, who does have some developing to do. So I don't know. For me, I was severely underwhelmed with the pick. I didn't have a problem with the position. I just had two corners ranked ahead of him. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to do great on the opposite side of Jalen Johnson. He played at Washington, so he's comfortable playing a physical press corner, but also Washington plays a lot of zone coverage. Um, so their corners they watch the quarterback's eyes, which in man-to-man defenses is bad to translate to. But with Eberflus bringing in the new version of the Tampa 2, you could say he's going to be able to be a bully off the snap and just be able to watch the quarterback make plays, and that's what he does. He can make plays, and he can ball hawk and intercept the ball, which I believe that's a trait you either have or you don't. So
Mhm.
I feel better about it. I think it was a position that I think needed addressed. Um, yeah. Do you have anything more to say about Gordon?
I mean, necessarily not necessarily um, Gordon and like all about Gordon, but I would say like going to this pick 39 and 48 with Brisker there as well. I think Ryan Poles in general was looking for more guys that are able to be playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that's what Matt Eberflus kind of came into the season when he addressed, him being the Bears head coach, is that he wants these playmakers. He wants, guys that are willing to take the ball away. And I was watching, I was watching a podcast earlier, and they were talking about that for some reason this could help Justin Fields. And what that means is that having these playmakers on the opposite side of the ball and being able to take away that ball would put Justin Fields in a better position to go do his part, go do his job, score the touchdowns, and then these defensive guys go out there and manhandle every team, every offense that comes out on the field against them. So I could see the vision. I understand it. It's clear holes why Ryan Poles did what he did. But as far as this right now, is next year going to be that offense that we bring out, and it's like, we need to address the offense next season, or in Ryan Poles' head, does he think that we have no problems with offense? Like Darnell Mooney is wide receiver one potential, and our O line is fine. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a good point. With we only see the games on Sundays, but there's a week of practice and preparation that goes into every game, and they do they do good versus good, definitely a lot in the off season, and then maybe once a week in season. And so yeah, Fields playing against a better defense is going to help him on Sunday. One of my favorite picks, one of my favorite players in the draft, Jaquan Brisker. I actually would have been more excited about him if the Bears would have picked him at 39 than I initially was with Kyler Gordon, just because Brisker brings a bunch of versatility. He plays in the box, so he's a glorified. You could call him a glorified linebacker, but he has great range, so he's obviously able to play that strong safety role. But he'll be able to come down and play slot corner, which, to be honest, has been a huge hole since we lost Callahan from to the Broncos, just because his injury history, and it just hasn't really been filled. It's just been spotty players, guys that are practice squad players that just come up due to injury. And I think Jaquan Brisker is going to allow Eddie Jackson to get back to his 2018, 2019 self of just being able to play center field, use his ball skills, and get his hands on the ball like he has been and what he did early in his career. Brisker is going to bring physicality, so he's not afraid to come up and hit. And with Eberflus's defense, with Los and the way they preach, 7 guys to the ball every time, he's going to be a guy that fits right into that. And yeah, I think it was a fantastic pick.
And to take in away from this as well, starting to look on the other side of it, we sit in a division now, regardless of who Aaron Rodgers is throwing to, we're going against Aaron Rodgers. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Osborne maybe, and now we have to go against Jameson Williams. And that, and gosh, his brother, the guy that was just on the Packers, we signed him. His brother plays for the Lions. That kid's pretty nice.
Yep.
St. Brown, right?
Yep.
Um, I think Ryan Poles is starting to understand, or well, as far as he's trying to make me understand. that we have to come away with a secondary to guard these guys. You know, all 6 of these games every season. I think we have to have the secondary to go against these caliber of players, knowing that Aaron Rodgers can take any type of wide receiver and turn him into a top 5 wide receiver. Doesn't matter the name, and we have to go against Justin Jefferson, who is arguably top 5, top 2. I mean, shit. There's probably people out there knowing that he's probably number 1 in their mind, and he is a good caliber of wide receiver, and we do have to have the secondary for it. Now, going back to our first podcast, we had to sit back and take in that we both agreed on that the way that the Chicago Bears team succeeds in the next upcoming years is that Justin Fields needs to develop. What is more important, stopping the guy on the other team to get a touchdown or developing Justin Fields?
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. I was watching the CHGO draft coverage that they did live during the draft last night. Just kind of rewound and just watched the reactions and breakdown of the picks they did. And they actually had a comment from a viewer saying that they would rather lose games 42-35 than 10-7 this year because at least we know Justin Fields is developing. And I mean, I can't argue with that just because if we can go out there and we can consistently put 30 points on the board with Justin Field, like that's the answer. We know we got the guy. You know, then there's another issue, you know, with the defense and having a defensive head coach and you're, you know, giving up 42 points. But yeah, I totally understand frustration with, you know, taking 2 DBs in with the top 2 picks, but it makes you feel better that those guys are going to start day one
With
they're of
needed
course going
holes.
to go
I mean,
through.
I genuinely think that you couldn't go wrong there as far as who you drafted besides the DN. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, realistically, I mean, obviously don't draft a punter, but it would have been nice there. I think I would have been more content with drafting a line at 39 and then kind of play that Brisker at 48. I think I would have
yeah,
been very much so content with that. And then we got a wide receiver,
got a wide receiver.
kind of.
This uh yeah, I think the pick of Valus Jones Jr. was the epitome of how I felt all day yesterday of like, okay, you know, like we filled a need, kinda. Um, but he's just a speedy wide receiver from Tennessee. He is led the nation in average kickoff return yards, and he led all of FBS with 8 yards average after catch. So he's a guy that runs hard when he gets the ball, and I think it's really important because looking at this team, and I think Poles and the rest of the staff views this team as definitely not a finished product, and they understand that they're not going to fix all of the holes this year, but to get guys that are more versatile, and with Brisker, obviously, like I said, him being able to play all around the defense there, and then Valus Jones being able to immediately upgrade our special teams and kickoff and punt returns, you know, from Jakeem Grant a year ago, and you know potentially have him grow into a wide receiver that I don't know if he has wide receiver 1 potential, but you know maybe he can give Darnell Mooney a run for his money at wide receiver 2 or 3, and but he's definitely a guy that can be used in different ways in the backfield, in the slot, outside as like a true X receiver, and we'll see. I mean, that's a guy that, according to things I've heard, that Luke Getsy is super excited about, and if our offensive coordinator is excited about him, then who am I to say? Um, I
Right.
I wasn't super happy with the pick as it happened, just because like I said, I had a couple guys that were still available at wide receiver position ahead of him, but they're right now the Ryan Poles told us when he was hired that he was not going to reach for needs, and he was going to take the best player available. He wasn't going to trade up or reach for a wide receiver or corner or whoever, offensive lineman, because he's like, okay, we have to fill this. Because when you do that, it might be a need now, but it might not be a need later. And if you start taking guys because they aren't a need, right? Then all of a sudden next year it's a huge need. So you got to just draft best player available. And that's honestly what is probably going to happen the rest of this draft today. And you got anything to say about Bayless?
Yeah, I think honestly, out of all three picks that we had, um, he's got coming out of day two that I think he has the highest ceiling and the lowest floor, and I think it's more treading towards the lowest floor. I mean, we're talking about a guy that is 25 years old. Um, most of these guys that come out of the, college like this when they're at that age and they really start to get really good. They bloom in college, and then they peak. That's it. They and then once when they're in the league, they're these practice squad players. They might see a special team play one or twice a game, and then they're done. But then he has that Tyreek Hill potential. I know people or Ryan Poles was talking about Debo Samuel. Honestly, Debo Samuel just became a name like last year. Like people started utilizing these guys like this last year, and if anything, Tyreek Hill's the one that really started doing those jet sweeps. That guy. I personally believe it's not necessarily a Debo thing, but it's more of a Tyreek Hill thing. But for him to be utilized like that, all right, cool. Because I could see it. Yards after being touched, the guy falls forward. He never really stops on a play. As soon as he's touched, if he's fallen, he's gonna try to pick up those 5 to 6 yards. He has that potential to be, a big name in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. But he's also the guy that at any given day right now, he's our kick returner. That's the way I look at him. But shit, I hope he proves himself. I hope Ryan pulls his first draft here, that he is just this mastermind. And he's going to take away from this draft that he is the guy, GM, that's right for Chicago. We went from, a Ryan Pace, a Ferrari with no motor, and now we're looking at this Honda Civic with Ryan Poles. And depending on the motor side of this thing, there's nothing flashy about it. It's going to get us to point A to point B. And until I understand the parts that he's working with here, which will probably accumulate over this upcoming season, I'm iffy on Poles right now. I really am. I'm trying to see his vision. But once again, I'm not trying to overreact. Everyone says Bears fans overreact, but I would like to say that, Ryan Poles could be on the right track. I just hope that it follows suit.
Yeah, I think you summed it up well. Bayless was in college for 6 years. Only had about 20 or so receptions last year, and that's why he obviously came back with the new COVID years and stuff. So he was able to get over about 60 plus receptions. So he's a guy that has stayed the course and obviously not had the production he wanted early in his career, and he finally got it his senior year. But he's a super senior. He'll be 25 once week one comes around. So yeah, he's a guy that is, in my opinion, is going to be. I think his potential ceiling could be like a Cordell Patterson.
Okay.
He's a guy that, like how the Falcons used him, not how the Bears and Matt Nagy used him.
No, I hear you. No. I get you.
Yeah. But to be anything on the field, right? To kick return, punt return, be your running back, be your slot, be your X, and fill in where injuries are. And so we'll see. Only time will tell. And yeah, do you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
No, that should be it. I mean, we got more stuff coming. I mean, I believe that we're gonna recap day 3 as well.
Yep.
So honestly, I think that's just a good point, just to kind of slow it down, and then I think when the draft wraps up, I think we're gonna go into it a little bit deeper as far as what we think and all that. So just to wrap up day 2 real quick. So
Yeah, yep. So, well, like he said, we'll be back after the draft wraps up, and we'll be a little more in depth with what we think Pole's vision is. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on the other side. Peace.
all right, later, guys.